Hey, me and Mark for this season of Insecure. Of course, like I said, this is season one, and as you guys know, I would put an intro here, but the show doesn't have an intro, so I can't really do much about that. But as you guys know, I really did love the first episode of the show. When I watched it, it looked like something new, something fresh, something that just wasn't HBO, and that's something that I definitely was looking forward to seeing. I like the way that HBO's trying to have like a wide variety of content, and this show, like I said, just felt very, very different. I was very interested in seeing the rest of this season, and I have to say that did the rest of the season pay off? Was it as good as the first episode? While Insecure, I do think overall did falter a bit in the second half of the season. I think overall this still was a pretty great first season with some really great messages, with some really great, very realistic plot twists, as well as some very well done characters. However, I do think it has a problem with some of its focus and a couple things like that. But let's just get into this season. There's not a ton to talk about because this is a very simple first season. There's only 8 episodes, and there's stuff that happens, but it's very easy to talk about. Like, it's not something where I need to go on and on and on about it. But let's just get right into it, starting off with Issa's plot. As we know, at the end of episode 1, Issa decided that she didn't want to be, with Lawrence. She does not want to be with him. She almost cheated on him with Daniel, and she's now kind of at a crossroads in episode 2. She's trying to figure out, is this really what I want to do? Is this really the right thing for me? And you get it. You really do get where she's coming from when it comes to this. It's what I like about Issa this season is that you completely understand where she's coming from. It's not so much that she doesn't want to be with Lawrence. It's more that she feels that Daniel just gives her more to work with. And it makes sense because Lawrence, if you think about it, is not the greatest guy. I mean, we really do get to explore more of him in episode 2. He constantly is on the couch. He's very lazy. He's not really that interested in her day job. As a school teacher, he doesn't really talk to her much about that. He definitely cares for her, but he's not really that interested in anything that doesn't have to do with anything that doesn't have to do with something that's just not anything that costs work. He's not really someone who does a lot of work. He works at a Best Buy because he was in unemployment and things like that. And I really did like the way that they tried to focus on Lawrence and his reaction as well, because Lawrence's reaction is, holy shit, this is actually over. Because I guess that Issa has done this a couple times before, but he's really starting to think this could be the end of it. She had that huge blow up, in episode 1, and he's really starting to think that this could be the end, but his friend's trying to encourage him, you gotta make things right. So like I said, he decides to work at Best Buy to try to impress her, which I thought was a pretty good twist, definitely. But episode 2, there's not really a ton that goes on. It's more of a transition episode where you start to see more of, what Issa really wants to do here, how they react to this decision. It's really episode 3 is really when I think this season officially takes off. Because episode 3 really focuses on a couple things. It really focuses mainly on, Issa, of course, but it very much focuses on a relationship with her and Lawrence, which I think every episode really does. But more so it focuses on her, choices, really, and is she making the right choices and things like that. And right in episode 3, you can tell she's really not making the most, thought out choices. I'm sure these might be choices that in her head she thinks are a good idea, but really when she thinks about it, I think she's gonna go back and think, yeah, that really was not the best choice. And I think we definitely do see that in this one. There's this point in the episode where she goes to Lawrence and she basically tells him in episode 3 that she does actually want to do this, and that he said, look, I want to move forward. If you want to move forward, I'm in. If you're in. And she decides she is going to try to pursue this, and Molly very much criticizes her for this, which we'll get to Molly in a little bit, because boy, do I have a lot of things to say about Molly, definitely. You betcha I do, but she decides to pursue this relationship with Lawrence, and they're gonna try to stay together, which you don't really know if this is really gonna work out, even though you think it's going to, you're not really sure. So I thought it was interesting the way that they did that. But they also focus a lot on Issa as a school teacher, where she's not really the most beloved. I mean, people don't really like her that much. You see in this episode that she constantly, her students don't really take her seriously. The staff, she has all these great ideas, but she hasn't really thought thought them through, and it's just really well done. Again, it's really showing how unsure of herself she really is, and how she doesn't really have anything that well thought out. And I think that's something that's really well done, is that Issa in general is a very well-realized character, one of the most well-realized female characters I've seen all year, and I think this is a perfect example of that. So that's pretty much episode 3 in general. I thought they did a pretty good job with that. Episode 4, though, is really when things start to get a little bit crazy. We see in episode 4, well, episode 4 actually is probably more of, not a filler episode, but there's just not a ton that happens in it. Essentially, in episode 4, we see that she decides to, continue this relationship with Lawrence, and she's constantly having thoughts of Daniel. You can tell that Daniel's in her mind, and, Molly's telling her this is a really bad thing, while Lawrence is starting to get closer with this coworker, but he really doesn't want to, do anything with her. You can tell this coworker, Tasha, I think her name is, she really does like him, but at the same time, he really cares for Issa. And that's something I did like about Lawrence, is that he's not a perfect person, but he is someone who very much cares for her, and he's not just going to go off and cheat on her. That's not something that he's going to do. However, that doesn't mean that Issa is going to do the same thing, which let's just jump into episode 5. Because at the end of episode 4, we see that one of the worst things that could happen to Issa that completely ruins her reputation happens when the Broken Pussy video, the song that she wrote about, Molly to cheer her up and everything, finally goes online, and it's leaked online, and this really starts to ruin her reputation. I mean, all of her students are singing it. Lawrence tries to tell her, look, this isn't going to be a big deal, but her students are singing it, the staff is into it, everyone's looking at her, and she's very embarrassed, obviously. So she's going to do what she can to try to extract the video, and Daniel does what he can to try to help her. He even tries to get her to write another song, and you really do see a lot of chemistry between Daniel and Issa. Unlike Lawrence, like I said, who's kind of lazy and doesn't really, he knows how to help her, but he can't really help her in the way she wants. Daniel actually does. He's someone who immediately is trying to get rid of the video. He's there for her. He's comforting her. This is everything that Issa really needs. You can really tell why she has this chemistry with Daniel. These two are just closer to what she wants. Lawrence is just not really what she wants, and these two, they start to get really close, they're connecting and everything, and before we know it, Issa and Daniel actually do in fact hook up at the end of this episode. They have sex, and obviously this very much upsets her. She's very much regretful of it, but it's what she did, and for the rest of the show, she has to realize that this is what she did. She can't go back to it, and that really changes the course of the show overall. So I thought episode 5 was really well done for the most part with the way they handled Issa stuff. Episode 6 is when things start to go a little bit off the rails, because episode 6, I'm not really sure why they wrote Daniel the way they did, but episode 6, Daniel's wearing completely different, not Daniel, Lawrence is wearing completely different than he is all season long, because like I said, we already established that Lawrence isn't perfect. He's not someone who's always there for her. He's not always looking for her best interest. He cares about her, but he doesn't really know how to give her what she wants and provide to her needs and things like that. And this episode is completely different. He's like this perfect guy, and there's nothing wrong with him. He doesn't have that edge to him. I mean, there's a great scene in the beginning of the episode where she comes home and she thinks that he's gonna hit her, and I thought the way they built all that up was really well done. Unfortunately, she decides she's not gonna tell him. She sees he's in a good mood, she sees things are going really well for them. She does not want to tell him, and Molly's telling her, look, this is gonna look worse for you if you don't tell him. And yeah, I definitely do agree with that. She needs to really just be straight up and tell him, look, this is what I did, I'm sorry I did it, and, go from there. But throughout the entire episode, Daniel is constantly texting her because he obviously wants a relationship, and she kind of has a fear of commitment. As much as she wants to be with Daniel, she is in a relationship with Lawrence, and she can't really change that. Lawrence is with her, she decided to be with Lawrence, she made that choice, and like I said, back in episode 3, when she made that decision to be with Lawrence, I knew that was going to come to bite her in the ass and that she'd very much regret it. And Daniel texting her is the perfect example of that. You can tell that this is not at all what she really wanted to do. I think in general she does want to be with Daniel, but at the end of the episode, Lawrence does in fact find out about her and Daniel together. And, he now knows that they have some sort of relationship. He doesn't know really what's going on with them, and he knows that definitely something's going on. And that really sets up the tension once we get to episode 7, which episode 7 is one of the best episodes this season. I thought episode 7 was so well written. It mainly focuses on her going to this party, basically, where she's very distracted and she's trying to keep her shit together. You know, she's doing what she can to just have a good time and enjoy herself, but it's hard to do, obviously, because there's constant guilt, like, looming over her. Everything she thinks about is just having sex. You know, every 5 seconds she's thinking about having sex with Daniel and things like that. And she's realizing that she can't just not give any fucks, as she calls it. She needs to actually care. She needs to actually care about what's going on. She needs to actually try to be a good person to Daniel, and I like that. I like that we saw that in this episode. I thought that overall was really well done. And we see, you know, there's this fundraiser she's doing to raise money and things like that, and it really does start to go off the rails. You know, she's constantly thinking about Daniel, and towards the end of the episode, that is when it eventually comes out where she does tell Lawrence straight up that they had sex, and Lawrence does not take kindly to this. He freaks out on her. He tells her, I can't believe you did this. How could you hide this from me? Because he knew they had a relationship, but he didn't know that they had sex. He didn't know that Issa would do this to him. He didn't know that Issa would be this unloving and this unfaithful, and he obviously is shocked about this. I mean, it really is sad. I really did feel bad for Lawrence in that scenario. It's sad to see what happened there. So Lawrence very quickly does end up leaving. And we'll get to what ends up happening in the finale. But such a well-done episode. I think such a well-done arc overall. But because of how well done this is, that brings me to my problem with the rest of the show. Because as good as I think that Lawrence and Molly are as characters, they're not nearly as developed as Issa is. And especially when we get to Molly's arc, because holy shit. I mean, Molly in the beginning of the show, I thought was going to be the one that's more put together. She's the one who has the better life. She has, you know, this whole agency and things like that. She just seems to have her shit together. But we see that that's really not the case. Throughout the entire season, she has this on and off relationship with this guy, Jared, and I'm not going to lie, it got really, really annoying after a while. And I get it that Molly, you know, doesn't want commitment. She doesn't really know how to have a real relationship, but she constantly just goes back to this guy just for sex. You know, she doesn't go for him for anything else. He comes over, they have sex. So they're essentially just friends with benefits, and that's what they've established. You can tell that Jared really wants more. And constantly throughout the show, she keeps trying to derail their relationship and trying to end it and telling him this is over and I just want to be friends. And you're not really understanding why Molly's doing this. Look, if Molly was a teenager, then I can understand that, because when you're a teenager, you're very confused, you're not fully developed. Molly is 30, so Molly should really have, I think, a more, you know, she really should think through about what she's really doing. It didn't really make sense to me why Molly was doing that. And I get it that Molly is just as confused as Issa. I get that she can't have a steady relationship, but the fact she just kept going back to him just made no sense to me. I mean, clearly he wants more, so why the hell is she going back there? It was dumb. It really was. And I really couldn't figure out what they were really trying to do with Molly's arc. Like I said, throughout the entire season they're doing this, and it really did piss me off what they did there, especially when Molly would contradict Issa for sleeping with other men. I mean, you're doing the same thing pretty much. You're sleeping behind Jared's back. You're basically trying to make him know that you don't want anything exclusive, and it's not really funny or anything like that. It's just sad, really. I felt really bad for Jared in this situation, and I didn't really feel like they gave Molly enough stuff to do, really. I mean, they gave Molly a good plot, but again, it was just really, really repetitive. Every 5 seconds, she'd go back to this guy, and I just really wasn't in it, I have to say. I really was not into what we saw with Molly. There is a very good episode, in episode 7, which I did like, where Issa talks about how she's really getting fed up because every guy, it seems like there's something wrong with him. And that, I thought that part was interesting, where she starts talking about how, you know, one's a virgin or one's possibly gay, you know, all this different stuff. It seems like every guy that Molly goes to, there's something wrong with him, and Issa really can't figure it out. And by the end of the season, it kind of just stays that way. It seems like she's going to try to focus on casual relationships. She doesn't really want anything that's significant, and I'm sure they can give Molly something good to do. Like, I like the actress, definitely. It's just this particular season, I really could not get into her plot. I found it to be very repetitive. I found Molly to get kind of not obnoxious, but annoying at times, with her just constantly going back to this guy who clearly wants more, but she isn't willing to give him more. And that's it. I really could not get into her. And then Lawrence as well. They tried to give Lawrence his own arc with Tasha, and it worked at the end, but I felt like that wasn't nearly as developed as it could have. It was very, very Issa-centric. I get it that that Issa's the main character, but you have Molly, you have Lawrence, you do these plots, and I didn't feel like they balanced it out as well as they could, and that really is my only flaw with the season. I feel like they really couldn't balance out the tones as well. But now, with that said, let's get into the finale overall. And then in terms of writing and directing, I thought the directing was really consistent. They did a really good job with the comedy and the drama, which a lot of shows on HBO do a lot. You know, most shows on HBO are not really comedies. They're just labeled as comedies when they're really dramedies. And this is one of the best examples of that. I mean, there are times where I definitely was laughing in this show, but it really is, you know, a dramedy. And they did that really, really well throughout this entire season. A lot of shows didn't really know how to do that. Girls is a great example of that. I felt like Girls always kind of had a problem between is it a comedy or a drama, but this show really doesn't have a problem with that. It knows exactly what it is, and that's something I was very happy about. It's a very self-aware show that's very, very confident. A lot of shows in the first season try to play it safe because they're trying to cater to a specific audience, and this show really didn't do that. They did what they felt was right. They did the story that they wanted to tell, and I'm always happy when a show does that. So that's something I was very happy to see with this show. I thought the writing was very consistent. Like I said, there were a couple things I thought were kind of in and out, but Issa's plot was very consistent. I was into what she was doing, and the season has a lot to say about being 30 and, you know, when should we be mature in a situation and should we be not? How should we handle situations? I thought they did that really, really well. There's this great gag throughout the show of Issa rapping to herself in a mirror, and it could get really degrading, but it went with her character. You know, she's very confused. This is a coping mechanism for her. This is the way that she tries to figure shit out, and they did that really, really well this season. I definitely really enjoyed that, and you really did get the sense that this is a woman who is really starting to figure her life out, that this is not at all what she wants. She's kind of coming to this realization, but something the show understands really well is that once you make a choice, you can't really go back to it. Her making that choice with Lawrence, she can't go back to, and that really all crumbles for her in the finale, which let's just get into the finale. So let me just back up that at the end of episode 7, Molly and Issa were not really on good terms. Issa kind of told Molly that she doesn't really know how to pick guys, and Molly told Issa that Lawrence doesn't, you know, she doesn't deserve Lawrence. And she kind of does have a point there that Issa really doesn't deserve someone like Lawrence who cares about her as much as he does. But we get to the ending, and Issa's all alone. She is. She's all alone in the beginning of episode 8, and I think episode 8 is by far the best episode of the bunch. I mean, everything about it, it just felt very urgent. You know, I felt that sense of urgency. I felt like this is something that's very realistic, and the show understands that when you go through a breakup, you're not just gonna magically go back to that person, because immediately Issa wants to right the wrong. She's trying to call Lawrence, she's trying to fix things with Molly. Molly it works out with. Molly and it works out because, like I said, the central relation of the show is not Issa and Lawrence, it's Issa and Molly. Those two are gonna be best friends, and that's something that we need to continue, is that they're going to be best friends and they're going to stick by each other. That's something that this show really understands very, very well. Lawrence, on the other hand, it doesn't work out so well. It really does not at all. We see Lawrence, and he basically tells her to fuck off. You know, he wants nothing to do with her. Yes, he cares about her, but after what she's done to him, you know, he can't really look her in the eye the same way. And you understand it, really. I understood why Lawrence was the way he was towards Issa. I understood why he really couldn't forgive her, because, yeah, what she did was pretty bad, honestly. You know, she really did fuck him over, and I can understand why he reacted the way he did. It was completely understandable. So I definitely did feel bad for Lawrence's situation, but I also felt just as bad for Issa that he wasn't willing to give her another chance. And that's something they did really well here, is that I understood both viewpoints. I understood where he was coming from, obviously, but Issa, yeah, I did kind of want these two to get back together because I don't want to see Issa sad, and Issa, in the end, we see she's kind of left without a relationship, and I like that they took her in that decision, that she didn't decide to have a relationship. She decided she is going to be on her own for a little bit, and if it looks like anything next season is going to be about single life. That's really what it's all about. It's about single life. It's about enjoying being single. It's about change, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that. There's this incredible scene where they go to their friend Kelly's birthday party, who Kelly is going to be main character next season, and you can definitely tell because she had a lot of stuff throughout the season where she's acting like she's the best thing ever, but she's not exactly mature, and Molly calls her out on this, that she doesn't really take anything seriously, she's not very mature about it, and she doesn't really know how to handle herself in certain situations, and I really like that. Now, at the same time, was kind of saying that Molly's being a little bit of a hypocrite because she's not exactly acting her age either, but at least she's mature about it, and and I did like that scene between Kelly and Molly, and I like that by the end, Molly and Issa do decide to stick by each other. I like that, and Lawrence actually does end up having sex with Tasha in the end of it, and I'm assuming that he's going to try to pursue a relation with her. He could tell that she was coming on to him, and now that he doesn't have Issa in his way, and he can finally, get to Tasha, he can finally be with her, he can finally have a genuine connection with her, they can finally have that relationship that she's been wanting to have, and I thought overall it was a very satisfying end. It really kind of works the series finale if the show didn't get renewed, and I thought they did a pretty good job with that, because it was an 8-episode series, but I felt like they were able to tell the story in 8 episodes. It was very satisfying overall. I really did like it overall. Not a ton of resolution with Molly, I have to say. I don't really think they did a ton with her, but I thought overall really well done story. I really did love what they did here, and I thought the finale in general was as satisfying as one could possibly be. So overall, guys, I'm not entirely sure where Season 2 is going to go. Like I said, I think it's going to be more about single life and things like that. Maybe Molly's going to decide she does want to be with Jared. This Molly and Jared thing really needs to stop, though. Either she's going to be with him or she's not, because it really is going to get annoying if this entire show, she's going to go back to Jared to have sex with, and no, she's going to go to this guy, she's going to go to this guy. You really can't figure out what Molly really wants, and that's something that kind of did annoy me in this season. Like I said, I feel like they definitely could have handled that a little bit better. But maybe they will fix in Season 2. We'll have to see. Because I really don't know where that's going to go with Molly, but we'll have to see. Maybe they'll give her more to do. I'm not really sure. Lawrence, in general, what is he going to do with Tasha? Is he going to pursue his relationship with her? I'm not really sure. Is he going to give her what she wants? We don't really know. And then Issa's all alone. Now she has Molly, she has Kelly, but she doesn't have a boyfriend. And I like that. I like that she ended the season without a boyfriend. It just seems like a good direction for the show to go in a single life. This is basically giving Issa what she wants. The question is she going to try to take a stab at, as much as she likes, Lawrence, is she going to try to possibly take a stab at Daniel? Because we know the connection she has with Daniel. We know the bond that they really have. We know how well Daniel likes her. She clearly likes him. So are they possibly going to try and make a relationship work? I'm not really sure. But overall, guys, I really did enjoy the season overall. I thought this was a very strong season TV, despite the Molly complaints and despite the stuff with Lawrence. I thought overall this was a really great season. That was a very realistic story. That's one of the most different shows for HBO. And I am overall going to give Season 1 of Insecure a 4.5 out of 5 or an A-. So overall, guys, the most you guys saw this show overall. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Did you like this show? Did you like the different tone of this show? Did you like the complaints I had? Do you have the same complaints that I had with Molly and things like that? That's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys in the next video. Guys, my next video, I have one more TV show to review for you guys before I make my top 10 list, and that is for the entire mini-series of Horace and Pete, which I have heard amazing, countless things about. I have finally finished it, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.